And welcome back to the Gunners Club. You're with myself, Gunner, and with Airman. Now, you believe that you have practiced the world's crappiest martial art
I assert it. Don't make me fight you over it because I'll lose.
because one of us will lose. And what was that martial art?
Capoeira.
Capoeira. Now, isn't that just a dance, just a sing-song?
It's sort of preparing for a beach party that you never have.
Now, hang on a second. I've seen the first Karate Kid movie, and Danny LaRusso has that fight on the beach against the Cobra Kai. Is it sort of that sort of beach party scene we're talking about?
Oh my goodness, it's like attending a wake. That's what it's more like. The songs that you learn in it, if you want to get your senior belts,
Sure.
kind of like preparing for a dirge.
So hang on a sec. We're talking about a martial art, and to get awarded belts, you have to learn how to sing songs. What, next to you clapping tambourines as well?
Oh yeah, pandera, which is basically a tambourine. Look,
What, there is actually a tambourine in capoeira.
That's correct. Now, any martial art that rewards people for being smaller than the participant against them
Yes,
doesn't show you that natural selection is working in its favour.
I'd have to agree with you there.
Any martial art that doesn't have within it defence from a Chinese burn perhaps isn't compendious. Any martial art that, when it starts falling out of form and getting to a real scrap, that devolves into boxing and headbutts, perhaps isn't a real organised
But I've got to give
system.
it to you. Headbutts are a pretty effective way of countering an enemy. But let's just start off. What is a martial art, and is capoeira a martial art? So for me, Mars, the god of war, means that a martial art is a preparation for war. So let me ask you, is it a preparation for war?
It's a dance fight game.
Okay. Is there any medicine in it so that you can recuperate your troops after a war?
You can sing bonding songs about the characters as they enter the ring.
Is there any remediation of muscle sprains and aches and things like that so they can get back in the battlefield the next day?
They say that a good song soothes the soul.
Now, I remember you invited me, you were all full of vigour and enthusiasm, and I came to see you train, and I opened up the door, and there you were at the corner of the stage, and I think you had something like a double bass in your hand, and you were playing music and chanting. The head was lolling backwards and forwards.
It was a hunting bow. Absolutely. Can be used actually to signal danger. Now, let me tell you, capoeira is not perfect. It's a product of where it's from. Without a knife, it doesn't make a lot of sense. Without a repeat visit of the person you're fighting, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The whole idea is to be able to survive an encounter, and if you win, not to win so that anyone would lose face. Because the next alleyway, the encounter could be waiting for you again.
Okay, so trying to match diplomacy with having a knife in your hand at the same time, that sounds very tricky.
You know, some people are just hard to kill.
Right.
I think there was even a martial arts film called Hard to Kill.
I think that there was.
Well, there is this belief that some people have a closed body. They have a particular supernatural protection. And that's where I would say capoeira drifts into the martial arts because it has its own supernatural philosophy behind it.
So you learn how to stop blood from flowing out of wounds, that sort of thing.
No, but you can wear a pretty pink scarf.
That counts for a lot. Do they revere past masters? Is it sort of similar culture of veneration like the Japanese and Korean martial arts have?
Yes and no. Capoeira came from seaside ports. And in that way, you can't say it was a naive or it wasn't tested, because there would be thuggards and brigands that would come to port, and they would try their luck against the gangs of the capoeiristas, who were real rascals. I mean, men with knives who would, rain merry hell. In that way, it was very streetwise. But can you tell me your question again?
Oh, I wanted to understand a little bit more about it as actually a fighting art and where it came from. So my understanding is it came from Angola. From Angola, it came across to Brazil. And my understanding, it wasn't just seaside ports and things like that, but it was actually practiced in the fields. Is there a bit of truth behind that?
For sure. If capoeiristas didn't get away from their sugar plantations, within 2 years it was expected that they'd be dead through malnutrition and exhaustion.
Wow.
So to escape into what they call quilimbos, or free villages that were literally off the map, they were uncharted places. And in the meantime, to actually be able to protect their energy. So a lot of capoeira is giving energy when you want. A lot of it is denying. The whole idea in Brazil that you will never, there was no middle class to speak of, and upper class was out of your reach. So all you could do is deny your energy. When you fight, you don't block, you deny it by actually evading.
Yes.
The other thing is bluffs, feints, or deception. And the other is to embellish something in a flowered way to show that you have an artistic propensity.
So it sounds to me there'd still be room for this in some of the pockets of the favelas, the slums in Brazil today.
Yeah, see, there were three styles. And Mestre Bimba came out in the 30s when he overturned Angola, which was very close to the ground. A lot of the motions falling to the ground, almost like a breakdancer would doing a freeze. Started to become a little bit more like what you would have seen in the Matrix with your no-arm cartwheels.
Sure.
A lot more like raking kicks, like roosters cockfighting. And this was Mestre Bembe, who was quite revered. He was revered, and the Angola was overturned. At the same time, you had as capoeira was illegal for some time, and then brought into academies. So the socio-demographic who could go into academies were middle-class white students who would basically come out, and then if they saw the master afterwards, instead of following him around like he's a messiah and giving him deference, and some learning would be taught every couple of days as a scrap thrown to them, it's like, I paid for the hour. If I see you on the street, I might say hello. Do you know what I mean? And
so let's go back to, you did the crappiest martial art ever. Martial arts basically has got three common things in it. There's the entering, there's a disbalancing your opponent, and there's a striking. So if you want to enter or engage in a fight, what happens in capoeira?
eye contact has to be made almost as if you're on a passing out parade with the head of the circle, normally with the chief birimbau or the bass birimbau. Then you have to join in the songs. You stand at one of the flanks as you slowly, the cues to enter the heart of the ring decrease until you're in there. You have to synchronize your breath as you're going in.
And then the fight starts. So for the entering?
Depends what style. If it's going to be a song of jeopardy that's being played like a ding dong dong ding ding dong, which is normally a warning that the slave masters are coming or to flee.
Okay.
In this case, you realize that a very fast pace is going to be kept, such as your regional capoeira.
Okay.
And
I like the word jeopardy. So from the French jeu partir, a game that's divided, you're not sure which way it's actually going to go.
right.
And then for the striking itself.
It's not about striking as such. If you compare martial art to capoeira, you'd say the French sailor's savate, which wouldn't have been unheard of in capoeira.
Yeah.
But the fabric that holds it together is sort of the swaying of the body, or the jenga in time with each other and filling in each other's holes.
Now, practicing for that, because I used to see you practice that a lot, and to me that's very similar to the shadow boxing that I do in boxing. Do you think of it similar to that?
In that everything is, there's a movement in breakdancing they call the twisto flex, or West Coast funk, where you actually wind out the sternum. You're actually getting the same motion again in capoeira, so every strike can come from outer periphery to center. That's where the strength is. Now, martial arts, you said there were three things in martial arts, but I think resilience is one of them. Here's why capoeira is such a watery martial art. And
So
another
pissy.
Another another instructor came to Melbourne and said to his students, "Don't play with students from this academy. They'll confuse you." Well, could you imagine going to a language school and getting told, "Don't speak with people in the community because they would confuse you"?
No.
Heavens above.
So have you ever had to use it in a fight?
I've had the ability to recall to a great distance when I thought someone could actually hit me with a weapon. And this is, capoeira sort of makes sense if you're unarmed and the other person has a knife. I have played against junior martial artists using capoeira when instead of fighting at them, I was lined up to fight across them.
Now, how did it go? Because I know that you've fought against some taekwondo practitioners using capoeira. How did that go?
I'd say just using the kicks from capoeira and not using the ones that are more like your raking kicks where you actually turn your hip and your bum towards them. You could easily hold off an experienced blue belt, easily. In fact, you'd have the upper hand. I was beaten by a second black when I used just capoeira. Again, unarmed and not resorting to headbutts. Capoeira has some strength in that it's outer peripheral vision, such as trippings, just raking out the ankle as if your foot was a hook.
And I actually did have one fight against you once when you were using capoeira, and you started by ritualistically, as in you didn't do it, but you signified that you were picking up a handful of sand and throwing it in my face That's very unexpected, very dirty. Not what you'd expect from a Japanese martial art.
Unfortunately, you have to play the scoundrel, and the malandrage doesn't translate very well. And this is why it's so many things you'll learn that don't actually have a chance to be shown within a fight. So it's a useless martial art. The idea of malandrage, which is, you could say there's malice, but it doesn't come from the word malice. It's meaning that if you can actually encourage someone to open their body up and to believe that they're actually engaging with you. I read in a newspaper once in the Age that a woman in Brazil got robbed, and then she realized that perhaps she was a willing participant. She was so charmed by the engagement of the person who was taking from her. And of course, if a capoeirista could do that a second time, then that would be even greater, especially if it was the same trick, or her social status was something great where it wouldn't be you.
We're deifying the cad. So sum it up. It's nighttime. You're in the city, in a seedy part of town. You're taking a lot of money out of the ATM. Useful martial art or the crappiest martial art you've ever done?
It only makes sense if you've got the street smarts where capoeira comes from. But if someone comes from behind you, here comes a Chinese burn.
Crappiest martial art you've ever done?
Well, let's see you defend yours.
Stay tuned for the next one. We're going to talk about how I believe I really have done the crappiest martial art of all time with Aikido. We'll see you soon.